October 17, 1897. Newburgh Sunday Telegram, Newburgh, New York. Juvenile Hypnotists. An epidemic of Svengalism in Eau Claire schools. Authorities try to stop it. Strange sensation stirs the Wisconsin town. How it started? A teacher who was no Trilby. Eau Claire has a record for hypnotism. Eau Claire, Wisconsin has upward of 2,500 schoolboys. 1,000 of these are convinced that they are embryo Svengalis, while 1,000 more believe that if they do not possess the skill necessary to practice the mystic art of hypnotism, they at least have the latent power, and that it will be developed sooner or later by perseverance and opportunity. Every morning and evening, before and after school, bands of boys, big and little, assemble in the vacant lots around the city schoolhouses and try to put each other to sleep with passes of the hands, with glances from the eyes, or with the aid of paraphernalia with bright surfaces, like the magic rods of the professional fakers of the stage. Every night, a pair of youngsters, the most of whom have not graduated from shirtwaists and knickerbockers, give public exhibitions of their powers for the entertainment of whosoever cares to look on. Astounding stories are current about the success of some of the youthful hypnotists, and are accepted in good faith because the school authorities, through Superintendent Gross, took official cognizance of the practices the other day by issuing a peremptory order to the effect that hereafter, any boy who is caught trying to hypnotize another boy will be suspended, with an excellent chance of being permanently expelled. The order has only served to make the boys more cautious. It has not diminished their enthusiasm for the art which Svengali employed to make Trilby the slave of his will and caprice. Local newspapers have published sensational stories about the spread of the hypnotic habit, and an alleged professional hypnotist, Kepler, who used to live in Eau Claire, has taken advantage of the existing craze to announce that he is going to put a man named Huguero in a trance and lock him in a glass case for 52 hours, and the whole town is awaiting the result of the experiment with breathless interest. 2 boys, in particular, have distinguished themselves by their success in hypnotism. They are Lum Scotfold and Byron Culver. An amusing incident is told of Scotfold. The other day, the teacher had a boy bring a cup of water from the basement to be used in diluting some ink that had thickened. The boy came into the room carrying the cup in his hand and was approaching the teacher's desk as if to deposit it there, when he suddenly halted and looked steadily at young Scotfold. Then, in sight of the whole class, he deliberately raised the cup to his lips and drank the contents. In the eyes of the teacher, it was a bit of insubordination that warranted immediate punishment, and going over to the boy, she seized him by the collar and shook him vigorously. He appeared to be half asleep for a moment, and then awakened to a full sense of his position. "Why did you drink that water?" the teacher said angrily. "I did not drink any water," was the unexpected reply. A giggling from the lower part of the room caused the teacher to turn her eyes in that direction, and she thought she saw Lum Scotfold and 2 other boys trying to hide their laughter behind geographies. She is a resolute little woman. Her name is Miss Dunphy. She had heard about the hypnotism business, and instantly suspecting that young Scotfold had something to do with the other boys' conduct, went over in the direction of Scotfold's desk to see about the matter. She detected Scotfold rolling his queer eyes at her from behind his book. "See here," exclaimed Miss Dunphy to the hypnotist, "if you try any of that hypnotism on me, I'll hypnotize you in a way you will not forget, and you will not be in a trance while I do it either." But the boy, as if confident of his own power, did not remove his eyes from the teacher's. Miss Dunphy became exasperated and swooped down on Scotfold. She took him by the coat collar and unceremoniously jerked him out of his seat into the aisle. What happened after that is tersely told by a boy who was an eyewitness of the hypnotist's discomfiture. Miss Dunphy didn't do a thing to Lum. She wasn't no Trilby. Hypnotism was no match for the anger and resentment of a teacher. Lum has since decided that Miss Dunphy is not a good subject. Both lads got their first hypnotic inspiration when Santinelli was in Eau Claire a few weeks ago. Santinelli is a man with the face of a tragedian, and he took the town by storm. The city, it ought to be remembered, is partial to that sort of performance and has a record in hypnotism that is not so brief that it is apt to be forgotten. It was the home of the magician Bancroft, who died a few months ago, and whose feats have excited the admiration and envy of every boy in town. 3 years ago, a sensational action which had hypnotism as its basis attracted the attention of the country to Eau Claire. Dr. George Picken and his son Azaghal were arrested upon complaint of a young woman named Mabel Briggs, who accused them of having exercised a hypnotic influence over her. She explained that one night while she was riding past the Picken residence on a bicycle, she saw Azaghal Picken sitting on the front steps. He looked at her, and though she rode past, she was impelled by some mysterious power to return. The Pickens were arraigned before Judge Bailey. A hypnotist named Flint was brought to Eau Claire to testify as an expert against father and son, but Judge Bailey declined to hear him, and at the time said some vigorous things about the humbug of hypnotism. Evidently, the judge has since changed his mind on the subject, for he has taken the trouble to investigate the stories about Lum and Byron and has told Superintendent Gross that he is satisfied that both boys possess a remarkable power. The judge has seen them at work on subjects. Both boys attended the performances of Santinelli and those of another hypnotist who calls himself Tyndall, and they appear to have procured some literature which both men had to sell. Whatever the books contained, the fact remains that very soon after Santinelli left the city, they began to practice hypnotism. Lum uses what is known as the fascination method. That is, he depends exclusively upon his eyes for the power he gains over his victims. Byron uses paraphernalia, consisting of some bright object which he holds in such a position that it serves to blind and bewilder the subject. Neither of the boys has attempted to hypnotize any of his girls' school companions, but has confined his operations exclusively to boys. Professor Gross, superintendent of the schools, says that the practice has got to stop.